Step a little closer and, well, maybe keep your voice down. Welcome to our latest explainer. Today, I'm going to be your guide as we trace a dark, hidden map across the globe. You know, we humans have explored the deepest trenches of the oceans and literally left our footprints on the moon. But there are still corners of this Earth that actively, violently reject us. Places so dangerous, so steeped in mystery and dark lore, that simply setting foot on them might guarantee you never, ever return. So we're going to look at 10 of the most restricted, forbidding destinations on the entire planet.
But before we get started, I want you to consider the terrifying paradox before us. As we embark on this immersive journey through these cursed coordinates, just keep this thought lingering in the back of your mind. Are these strict government bans, the heavily armed guards, and the lethal warnings put in place to preserve these isolated sites? Or are they a desperate attempt to keep humanity safe from forces we simply cannot control or even comprehend? Let's find out.
All right, let's dive into Section 1, Cursed Earth and Deadly Guardians.
Think about North Sentinel Island, sitting deep in the Indian Ocean. In our hyper-connected world, you think no place is truly isolated anymore, right? Well, not here. The Sentinelese tribe has lived a Stone Age existence on this island for thousands of years, completely cut off from the outside world. And they clearly want to keep it exactly that way. Back in 2006, a couple of stray fishermen accidentally drifted a little too close to the shore. They were killed instantly. No warnings, just lethal action. And when the Indian Navy flew helicopters in later to try and retrieve their bodies, they were immediately met with a massive hail of spears and arrows. Because of this unyielding hostility, the Indian government has an absolute ban on anyone going anywhere near the island.
So, from human guardians, we move to something, well, a bit more sinister. We're traveling over to Snake Island, right off the coast of Brazil. Now, science tells us a very logical story here. Thousands of years ago, rising sea levels cut this chunk of land off from the mainland, forcing the snakes trapped there to evolve incredibly potent venom just to survive. But the local myth, it painted a much more terrifying picture. Locals whisper that centuries ago, pirates buried a massive treasure here and used dark magic to summon a literal army of serpents to protect it for eternity. And honestly, the sheer numbers make that curse feel incredibly real. 4,000. That is the estimated number of golden lancehead vipers currently slithering across this tiny island. You literally won't find this snake anywhere else on Earth. And its venom, it is so unbelievably powerful that it literally melts human flesh on contact. It's no surprise the Brazilian government has strictly forbidden anyone from stepping foot there. With a viper lurking behind almost every single rock and tree, one step is pretty much a guaranteed fatal mistake.
Which brings us to Section 2, Archives of the Unknown.
Now compare these two highly restricted, completely different worlds. First, you have Area 51, out in the Nevada desert. The official story, ever since the 1947 Roswell incident, is that it's just a mundane military base testing weather balloons and aircraft. But we all know the dark rumors. It's a vault for alien bodies, crashed UFOs, and crazy top-secret tech. And their security protocol? Shoot on sight. Then contrast that desert fortress with the Vatican Secret Archives. No armed soldiers in the dirt here. Just a fortress of elite, invitation-only access. Officially, it's just historical religious records. But the whispers? They say it contains hidden documents about Jesus, evidence of extraterrestrial life, and ancient texts so forbidden they can literally never see the light of day. Two completely different archives, both totally locked away from you and me.
Moving right along to Section 3, Gateways to Other Dimensions.
We've all heard of the Bermuda Triangle, that infamous stretch of ocean connecting Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. For centuries, dozens, maybe hundreds of ships and airplanes have just vanished here without a single trace. Science tries to explain this whole shebang away with sudden, invisible, hyperviolent storms or bizarre magnetic anomalies that make your compasses and electronics just completely flatline. But the myth that refuses to die? That this triangle is an active, supernatural trap. A zone controlled by some unseen, ancient force that actively pulls vessels into the abyss.
But hey, the ocean doesn't get to have all the fun. High up in the unforgiving peaks of the Himalayas lies a place known only as the Dark Energy Temple. And what makes this place so uniquely terrifying is that nobody actually knows exactly where it is. It's said to have been built by some mysterious, otherworldly force thousands of years ago, and local lore insists this temple is basically a tether to an alternate dimension. The sadhus and researchers who have gone actively looking for it, they either vanish off the face of the earth or they return, but their minds are completely and utterly broken.
Let's step into Section 4, Realms of Spirits and Gods.
Take the Island of the Dead. While a lot of islands have historical significance, this one is entirely defined by its cursed past. Authorities will literally never open this site up to tourists, and when you look at the reports, it's pretty obvious why. People are routinely unearthing centuries-old skeletons and ancient burial shrouds. Visitors talk about unnatural, bone-chilling winds that seem to have a mind of their own, carrying these bizarre, disembodied, ghostly voices through the trees at night. But the most terrifying part? The historians and archaeologists who have actually traveled there to study the ruins and simply never returned.
This inexplicable terror brings us to Mount Kailash in Tibet. It's widely considered one of the most secret peaks in the world, revered as the absolute center of the universe by Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and the Bon religion. For centuries, the myth has been that this is the divine abode of Lord Shiva, a peak so holy it is meant to be completely unscalable by mortals. And remarkably, no human has ever successfully climbed it. Why? Well, in the 1950s, a Chinese expedition decided to try. They were met with absolute, inexplicable terror, spontaneous and total mechanical failures of all their gear, impossibly aggressive weather that appeared out of nowhere, and terrifying reports of glowing lights and unearthly voices completely surrounding them. The mountain itself literally forced them back.
Finally, we reach our last stop, Section 5, the descent into madness.
Have you ever heard of Wibak Mountain in Norway? It's a highly restricted, profoundly mysterious peak, and it's not the altitude or the freezing cold that keeps people away. It's the atmosphere itself. According to local legends and chilling reports, the very air around this mountain distorts human perception. Prolonged stays are literally impossible. The environment somehow burrows right into your psyche, unraveling your sanity and driving anyone who lingers into a state of absolute, unbreakable madness.
And that brings us to the most notorious, heart-stopping destination of all, Japan's Aokigahara Forest, resting quietly right at the base of Mount Fuji. Look at this checklist of terror. Now, science tries to explain the deep disorientation here by pointing to the magnetic iron in the volcanic soil, which violently scrambles compasses. But the locals? They know the darker truth. They speak of an invisible supernatural force, a curse of restless spirits that saturates the woods, actively urging the vulnerable towards self-destruction. People who have made it out speak of hearing disembodied whispers right behind their ears and watching shadows shift unnaturally in the deep, disorienting fog.
This isn't just some spooky campfire story. Aokigahara is a dark, tragic puzzle that actively claims lives every single year. The danger is so palpable, so intensely real, that if you take a guided tour on the very safe edges of the forest, the guides will explicitly and strictly warn you, do not, under any circumstances, stray from the marked path. Because if the fog rolls in and that magnetic soil blinds your compass, the forest will trap you and you may never return. It really is the ultimate terrifying destination.
So that wraps up our dark little explainer today. But I've got to ask, from the venomous shores of Snake Island to the alien vaults of Area 51, to the sanity-shattering air of Wibak Mountain, if the government bans evaporated overnight and the guards just laid down their weapons, which of these forbidden, cursed places would you actually dare to visit? Think carefully about it. Let me know in the comments below. And just remember, some doors are kept locked for a very good reason. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey. See you next time.